I'm doing something very cool today. One of Dolly's children has agreed to speak to me. I've decided to dress a bit smart. And I've actually got Dolly's diary. Look at this. This is the original gratitude diary before it was even a thing. Read that. I'm still happy. Well, time does go quick. I am now 89 and I am still enjoying my lovely children. They are looking after me so well and keeping me happy. Think Dad would have been very proud of them. So Dad, she's referring to Jimmy there. So cute. I can't cope with her. So cute.
Marlene, was Marlene older?
I just got back and I was able to speak to 2 of Dolly's children. I feel like I've got a lot more facts now, and I'm going to give you the story that I've been able to piece together from all of their answers. Another war has broken out. You're too young to remember the first one, but you know the devastation, and now you're living your worst nightmare. Your wife is sleeping in the underground stations of London to take cover. You've just had word that one of your parents has been killed. Their house has been completely demolished. You're currently safe, but all you can think about is your wife back in London. What would you do in that situation? Would you sit by and just wait for her to write to you? Jimmy was not about to wait. He stole an RAF lorry and drove it all the way back to Bethnal Green. He was not about to leave his Dolly. He arrives back to Bethnal Green, picks up Dolly and her 3 sisters, and drives them to somewhere that they will be safe and they can stay with family out in the countryside. Jimmy hears that he's going to be in quite a bit of trouble for stealing the RAF van. And so rather than go straight back, he decides that he'll stick around for a few weeks. Dolly's children aren't quite sure, but it would seem that at some point in those 2 weeks is when Dolly's sister Belle falls pregnant. Eventually, they would find out where Jimmy was and they would come and arrest him for stealing the lorry and saving his wife and her 3 sisters. He goes straight from prison back to the RAF, and at the end of the war he returns home safe and sound. However, his brother, who was married to Belle, would not return home from the war. Sadly, he would be killed. Which means, according to Dolly's children, that Jimmy's brother and Belle's husband never knew about the affair. Which, I mean, if you were Belle, you'd be sad that your husband had passed away, but would you not be a bit relieved? Because if he came home and you had another child, that would be very confusing. Jim and Dolly have a very happy marriage, and Dolly's children blame the war for the affair. They still believe their dad is a very honourable and lovely man, and they say that in those days a lot of strange things happened and a lot of people kind of lost their mind. Their words, not mine. Now, fast forward quite some years, Dolly would have 9 children, and at some point she became very unwell. And when I asked them what was unwell, they said it was thought that she would be a danger to herself or to her children. She was under extreme stress. Now again, purely speculation. Some of them believe this is when she found out that her older sister's child was in fact her husband's. But either way, the fact of the matter is she had what they call a mental breakdown. Now, something that I learned that I didn't actually know is that this happened twice. It didn't just happen once. She was sent away to somewhere called Claybury, which is an asylum. I think in those days it's called like a mental hospital. And at this point it was decided that she would give her baby away to her sister, who had told her she couldn't have any more children. Dolly gets better, she gets herself of right mind, and she realises she's made a massive mistake. She really wants her baby back, but she is not allowed. And apparently this sends her back inside, and all the rest of her children are sent to live along the coast. And I guess in these days they didn't really talk about what was going on in their lives, or like it was maybe a shame thing, because none of them really knew or could remember knowing where this other baby went. So I guess maybe just the culmination of being so young and your mum always being pregnant, and the fact that she was constantly back and forth to different hospitals. And what I also found really interesting is that all 8 children were sent to different places, which I guess makes sense because there were so many of them, but one of them was actually sent to live on a houseboat. I mean, can you imagine just like being a 5-year-old and one day your mum's gone, which is crying all the time, and then you're living on a houseboat? And I also realised when I was asking all the questions is that they all have slightly different memories about how they found out about the child that was given away, and also how they found out about the older child who was their half sibling. But one memory that both of them have is of one of Dolly's sisters coming into their house with a broom and saying to Dolly, "Why have you stolen my broom?" And Dolly said, "You can't even give me a broom. I gave you my flesh and blood." It just makes me go cold. And then she shouted at her own sister and said, "You told me you couldn't have any more children." Because apparently this sister actually went on and had a few more kids after taking Dolly's child, Rosa. But neither of them asked questions. Like, neither of the siblings that I spoke to, neither of them asked questions about that. So what I've definitely learned is that depending on what sibling you ask, they've all been told slightly different versions. But there's definitely like a thread of truth in each one. You can see like there's definitely a timeline. But it seems like because nobody spoke about stuff, some things were confused. Like, for instance, the fact that I believed the daughter that she was talking about was the half-sibling. I never knew that there was a child that was given away until after. Despite it looking very black and white, that Dolly was completely wronged the whole time, they both have very strong feelings that their dad was a wonderful man, and like they both speak very, very highly of him. It's so interesting that there's so many sides to one story.